Hi, welcome to Behind the Scenes, Behind the Startup with the Snappie Hippie. That's me, Juanita. I'm starting the series because I have so many friends that have businesses, and most of them are women, and I just want to connect and have conversation with my fellow ladies. Many of these people are friends. Hopefully in this series, I'll make some new friends. This is my first time doing a live where I'm hosting somebody else coming on. So let me see, go live with, I am not wanting to put a filter on my face. I am trying to, hey. Pretty Hair just joined and now we're trying to figure out how to get her in here so we can start this interview. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being this first video with me. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Like Pretty Hair. Connecting. Yeah, we did it. We did it. I feel like
technology.
I feel like Dora.
How are you, love?
I'm in Los Angeles, and LaRissa is joining me from Colorado. What city in Colorado?
I'm actually in Park County, so like where South Park is. The show. The middle of nowhere. Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me today. I'm just going to give your bio and then we'll go right into it. So LaRissa brings almost 2 decades of experience to Behind the Chair. She is a color connoisseur. Connoisseur.
Yes.
She enjoys everything from color, from accentuating the natural to complete transformations. She is the genius behind my silver transition with my color at the end to accept that I am like 75% gray. She's also been on BuzzFeed and Teen Vogue and was on DC's Fox 5 Friends, where she had the opportunity to showcase her work. And now she's here on Behind the Scenes with the Snappie Hippie. So welcome. I've also known LaRissa for over 20 years, which is crazy because that means we must have been in the womb together.
Exactly. We must have been 5.
We don't age. We are vampires. Right. Just kidding.
Correct.
I started this series and I really wanted LaRissa to be my first one because I've known her for so long and I do know her story. And I just wanted to give inspiration to people out there who have a dream in their heart. I think there's so many people that are living out here unfulfilled because they have a dream in their heart and just either have all the nope, could never do that, self-doubt to like, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have like the limitations that are around them. And I really just want to encourage people to say that if you have a dream in your heart, I really do believe that it came to this world with you and that you can make it happen. And when you follow your heart and you follow your dream, you will be rewarded. I promise you 100%. If you walk on your aligned path, it may not make sense. Like, how did 2 + 2 = 16? And I could pay my rent today when I only had 50 cents in the bank yesterday. Like, things just don't make sense. But when you just trust and you follow that voice, things happen that you cannot believe. So without further ado, I really just want to lead you into, so LaRissa's a hair artiste, a hairstylist, color connoisseur. I'm trying to get that word down. I want to even hear how hair made its way into your life. Before we even get into how you started your own business, how did hair pull you in?
Well, I guess when I was a teenager, I would color my friend's hair and just like, playing around and and I put like 2 little blonde streaks in the front and just that little stuff, but I never really thought about it as a career. I did know that I didn't want to go to college, like that college wasn't for me. But I am always like a lover of education. And when I was moving from San Diego back to Northern Virginia my senior year, I didn't have enough credits to graduate and they wanted So they wanted me to take all these different courses or whatever else, and then they were like, or you could do like a half day Votech school. And by this time, it was probably a couple weeks before school started that I had moved back, and the counselors were like, pretty much everything's full. But I had options, and my top two options were cosmetology and auto body, actually. So, um, yeah, I was like, well, I mean, I feel like women always need to know about cars because we always feel like, you know, we don't, and then we're taken to the bank or whatever else. So I was like, well, whatever, I'll do this, to graduate, blah blah. And then once I got into it, I really got into it. And at first, I just wanted to do makeup, but then once I started to learn hair color, I really got on board, and then it just kind of unfolded as far as making it a career and seeking education after school, and all that other jazz. And then fast forward 2 decades, and now I live out in Colorado and have started my own business, which that was a little haphazard as well, but yeah, that's how it unfolded.
That is so cool. And just like a personal backstory is I got to be LaRissa's hair model for so many things. We traveled from
Hmm.
Virginia to Boston. It was really cool. I sometimes was her hair model as an interview to get a job at a hair salon. I went with you one time.
Right, right.
That was super cool. I've also
Yes.
met like her salon friends who are also super cool. So I have been following your career for a really long time. And LaRissa,
Hmm.
before she made her move to Colorado, she was living in DC and working at a pretty prestigious salon. At least to me, it was in right where formerly known as the Bullets used to play, the Washington Wizards. Uh, and so how, because you owned a house in DC, you were working at this awesome salon in DC. So how did you decide to sell your house and end up having a successful salon in Colorado? What's the one, two, three
Well,
there?
right. I didn't I bought my house at 24, and I was working at a salon actually in Virginia. And
Okay.
I was I was wanting it was 2005, so it was before the crash, and I was wanting to like buy it and then flip it in a couple years and sell it. Well, I got caught in the housing market and I had to stay. So I was there for a decade. And right when, I could finally sell, I was just things in my life, I was ready to move for sure. And um yeah, I had come out to visit Colorado with Rob, and we really loved it. We met up with my friend Danny, and she has clementines down in Denver, and she was like, come work with me. We used to work together at Salon Blue, and I was like, yeah, I'll come. And then I had a longtime client who had a second home in Frisco, which is in Summit County. And we kind of used that place for home base while we searched for a house to live, because we thought we would live like in Conifer Evergreen. So not so far in the mountains, but not right in Denver. Um, and I couldn't find any housing. uh, Primarily because I had a bully dog, and they're really frowned upon in Denver. So it was hard to find a place to
Hmm.
rent. And then we decided to stay in the mountains. And when I went around to look at other salons, at this time, it had been 15 years, and I just didn't want to be micromanaged. I wasn't really vibing with any of the salons that I went into. I hadn't, from my Denver friends, it wasn't like there was like a go-to spot. So I just kind of like poked around and saw how much commercial space was. And honestly, um, the the real estate lady got back to me from Breckenridge before any of the other ones did, and I went and looked at the space, and I was just like, well, Rob was really encouraging, and then my friend Jenny, who owns the salon in Virginia, was really encouraging. She was like, "You're a workhorse, so why are you gonna like build for somebody else? You got to start over all over again. So just like do it for yourself." And I was like, yeah, but that's really scary. I don't know anybody here. I don't like no one knows me. Like to have like a business that relies solely on clientele, it just was kind of I was like I was really resistant to it, honestly. But it's one of those things where I feel like when you kind of like have an idea or things start to unfold, and they start to unfold a little bit effortlessly, they might not have been like what you thought, but it's like what's happening. um I just kept like walking, and it was like one foot in front of the other, and each thing that kind of opened up, I just kept going. And yeah, so I ended up doing it, and I was terrified, but within like 6 months, I had like a really solid clientele already. And then now this month actually is 5 years that we've that I've been in business. And now I have Mandy who works with me. So yeah. I never wanted to own a salon because I didn't want to do the business side. Those are very two different mentalities. Like I like to do hair and go home. I didn't want to do the business aspect of it. I understood that it was a lot to run a salon, and I'd always worked at salons where there was 20 plus people. So that was always very overwhelming to me, or having to like manage people. Like, just come to work and do your job. Like, you're an adult, just do it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to micromanage you, and I don't want to be micromanaged. So me being by myself in this small space um, just allowed me a little bit. It was more opportunity to still focus on the craft and really only have to worry about myself. And now Mandy rents for me, so she's the same. She runs her own chair, but it's great because we just work really, really well together. So yeah.
Dude, I love that. And it's exactly what I was saying earlier too, is that when you follow your kind of alignment, it just feels easy. Like you're like putting one
Right.
foot in front of the other. And it was like, yes, that felt really easy. How did that happen? Like,
Yeah.
first, blown away, you owned a house at 24. That's just crazy. And then two,
But I
within
didn't go
six,
to college,
I
you
mean,
know?
yeah, but you didn't go to college. Most people say you can't make money if you don't go to college. Like,
True, but like because I had that Votech school, I came out of high school with a skill and a
that's
trade, so I could go to work. So by the time I was 24, I'd already been working for 6 years.
that's true.
So it's not like I was coming out of college at, what is it, 21 or 22, with student debt and
Right.
starting there. I was already, at a certain point. But um I mean, it takes a lot of it takes a lot of hustle and not a lot of party. Like, we would
Yeah.
party,
Yeah.
we would go
Yeah.
dance, but me, I would go to work. Like, I would, ever since we were kids, like, work was one thing. I'd party for a little bit, and I'd usually be out by like 2 because I had to work the next day. So I don't know. It just, um, it's hard, I think, and this too, especially with financial goals, because we want to like party and have fun and do stuff, but it's also like cool to own a house,
Yeah.
you know?
And then be
And
able
then
to
that sets
sell
you
that
up for
house.
future stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my cushion. I was able to survive um the wave because DC didn't really decline, it was just stagnant. So because I
Mhm.
stayed for a decade, I was able to leave with a little bit of money, and that kind of was like a nice cushion for the move and then for the salon, and then just kind of from there. But I mean, I definitely, like I said, I was resistant to it, and then I just kept getting the call to it, and like things just kind of kept popping up that I couldn't like not be aware of and acknowledge. So I just kept following that. And then I mean, that doesn't say it didn't come without tears and fears,
Right.
for sure.
And
That that definitely was real. Several crying in the showers, like, what am I doing? But it all worked out.
yeah, I mean, in a town where you knew no one and you had
Hmm.
solid clientele within 6 months is
Hmm.
a huge deal. That's crazy in a service industry, one that you're running yourself. When you were
Yeah.
in when you were in cosmetology, did they teach you any of the business side or was it just the craft side?
Honestly, it's more just to pass state board. It's really not even that. You don't come out of hair school knowing really how to do hair. You gotta
No.
either personally assist, or yeah, you gotta either. It's more like sanitation and doing correct things, but they're not really judging you on your work. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that comes from hands on and just being in the salon and personal assisting and watching mistakes and then creating your own mistakes. And do you remember the time I cut Veronica's hair all off on accident? I cut her layers too short, and like it was just supposed to be a trim. And next thing I know, I was just like, I just got to cut your hair like to here. And I just cut it like a bob. And she was really good and waited to cry until she got in the car.
Good
But
for
yeah, I used y'all's guinea pigs.
I remember my perms, my perms. I was all about
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
perms.
Yes. So, yeah, but I just think like, no, the business side, honestly, that comes from my mom. Like, my
Mm.
mom owned a business, and she owned a construction business, and she's always been one to like, listen to like Zig Ziglar and like Tony Robbins when I was a kid. So I would she'd be listening to those in the car. And I think, your children listen, they absorb what they hear around you. You think they're not paying attention, but they are, even if it's on a subconscious level. So like hearing that kind of stuff and business talk, and she's always been really motivated in that, it came, that part of it came pretty effortlessly. And that is definitely like a huge nod to my mom. Yeah.
That's that's awesome. Oh man.
Hmm.
I also shout out to your mom.
Oh, Terry.
What would you say? I mean, besides moving to a state you've never lived in and working in a city you've never lived in, were there any other hurdles that stand out to you that like really you were like, I have to overcome this before I can start a business, whether it was like paperwork or I'm not sure like what kind of licensing is needed to own a space and operate here. Was there any kind of like push and pull?
It
Was it
honestly, it was like oddly easy. You know what I mean? I was like,
because it was
okay,
meant
well,
to be.
right. Divine alignment. No,
Yeah.
I mean, to get an EIN is really easy, to go from, to registering with the state. And then from there, I mean, I will say this, I've always had really good credit. It's something I worked hard on always. And a lot of people don't, they want to get frustrated with credit, but it's like, you got to play the game. Banks don't know you. You're just a number.
Yeah.
So you got to play the game to get the things that you want, to take advantage of low interest rates when you want to, or to be able to get things for yourself. So that really helped me. And then honestly, it's such a small town that I can walk down the block and be at like town building or like, right. So everything was like right there, and it was just super easy and effortless. Now, my friends that opened up places in DC, it was a whole different ball game,
Mm,
because everything takes so long. Just in contrast, like if I get a speeding ticket here and court's at 9, by 9:05, I will have paid and been back in my car. So it's just kind of like, that it's a small town. So it's just like that kind of stuff was pretty easy. And then honestly, the biggest problem was as far as physically, because Rob helped me out so much and did most of the work, was the shampoo bowl and like getting a plumber. That was probably my biggest thing. And then they tried to charge me like twice as much, and I was like, not today, my friend. So, but outside of that, it was relatively to get it all started. And then after that, building a clientele. Um, it was really like 5 years ago when fashion color was like super on Instagram. And I just looked up geotags, and no one that were salons were using like Breckenridge or like peak, like things that were key geotags to the area. So I just started like pumping hair pictures, and that's kind of how it evolved. Had a couple of clients, and again, it's small town. So if it's small town, it'll like make or break you, right? The bad news will spread just as quickly as the good. So
mm.
thankfully, I was pretty well accepted in town and was able to build a clientele pretty quickly.
That's so smart. Both of those things that pop up of like, oh, I want to start a hair business, but then you got to think of like, where are they going to wash their hair? Like you do need things
Oh
like
yeah,
like you go into a space, and if it's a space that's not already set up for hair, like you're not moving into a
mhm,
hair space, there's things that you
right.
have to revamp and do. So, and then I love that aspect too about using social media as a marketing tool. I think many people get
Hmm.
caught up, and I'm guilty of it myself, but sometimes you get caught up in the scroll or the comparing or anything like that. But if you look
Yeah.
at your social media as what it's supposed to be for your business, as a branding
Hmm.
tool, as a marketing tool, and that was so smart to look up geotags. It took me a minute to catch on to what that was, but now I know what it is.
Yeah.
But like using the place where you're pushing your business.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, as well as, hairstylist page would give shout outs and things like that, and I would get featured, and that's awesome. But that's like such a broad area, I
Mhm.
mean, that's like the world. Whereas like I was trying to narrow it down to a specific area. I have such a love hate with social media, especially with our
Right.
age group. I definitely need it for business. And then having two businesses, I feel like I can't just have everything on one page, and I wish I could, because
Right.
I'm kind of like all over the place, but they're different things, but all an aspect of me. So I feel like that's starting to meld together. I think just kind of being authentic to people always say that, be authentic to you, but like really like post stuff that is you, it might not necessarily like vibe with everyone else, and that's fine.
Right.
Like, you don't have to vibe with me, but you probably respect my work. And I'd rather that, over other stuff. I mean, I can vibe with pretty much anyone who's outside of like, you know, discussing basic human rights or the environment. Other than that, like we can like agree to disagree, but yeah, I think just being like showcasing who you are, what your work is, the things you're into, because like
Mhm.
attracts like, so it'll come
Yeah,
together. And
right.
if people aren't like, they're like, oh, I just like her, but not necessarily like that's not their vibe. That's fine too, because that's
Right.
like inspiration for other people and vice versa.
Well, everyone should check out your Instagram. I like pretty hair because you do have really pretty hair pictures on there. But I do love, because I think this is so important with small business. Because what I've realized in my own work and research is that people are not necessarily just buying the product, they're buying your story. They like you. So I
Hmm.
love when you throw in pictures of like you and Billy, or, something that's
Hmm.
passionate to you, or like, hey, here I am, the person behind I like pretty hair. Like,
Right.
and I think it's really
Right.
important
I like to be
because
on the other side of the camera more than on the face of it, but I understand that that has to happen too, you know.
right? Because people like in there, in not anybody can do hair, but there could be so many salons, and somebody
Hmm.
just connects and resonates with you. And even if that other salon down the street may cost less money, they're gonna pay that extra money because they want your service. They want to work with you specifically.
Right. Right, right. Because
So-
it's an energy exchange, especially,
right.
for your hair. It's, that's your crown
But
chakra. That's,
that's the crown chakra. You're also like the bartender for women, right? Like women sit in
yeah,
your chair
yeah,
and just unload.
right. It's like, do we hate him today? Are we mad at him? Or is it like, you know, oh no, we love him, or oh, it's great? Or it's like, who do you need me to be for you that day for the support that you need, as well as getting your hair done, you know?
Right. and and that's so true about this being such a pivotal point for all of us.
Mhm.
So many of us put our self-esteem behind our hair. It's very much, you
Right.
feel different if your hair is done versus not,
Totally.
right?
Totally. Yeah, or like also with it being such a small space, you can really have those intimate conversations because no one else is really in there. And then it's
Mm,
like you and this other person. And yeah, it's like a bartender without drinking
yeah,
unfolds.
yeah.
So yeah,
One
it's a
thing I
lot more than just hair.
one
I mean, the hair is part of it, but
but it's more than just hair. That's so true. One thing I also wanted to point out that I want to encourage others to do is that you spoke about some people who are really supportive in your journey, Rob and Jenny, right?
Jenny, my friend
Jenny.
Tracy, all my close friends were very encouraging. Um, but yeah, I mean, Rob's definitely like my backbone, I would say, for a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to the salon physically.
Because
Yeah.
when starting a business, it can be so vulnerable because it's like this, it starts in your head and your heart, and then it takes a while to like maybe write it down, and then maybe share the
Hmm.
idea with somebody else. And if you share it with the wrong person, sometimes that could shut your dream down, not forever, but maybe like a month or a year, and be like, I had this
Right.
idea back, but I shared it with somebody and they said my doubts out loud back to me. So I think it's so
Right.
important that when we're starting a business, that we find at least one cheerleader, at least one person we know that's going to be like, hell yeah, do that. You will be great at it. And then, like you
Yeah.
need a support person, a cheerleader, because there's going to be times where you're
Totally.
like, what the hell am I doing? I'm crying in the shower. This is
Right.
crazy. I have,
Yeah. Or
you
just,
know,
I mean, if it were some like off the chain thing, I would hope that my friends and family would like reel me in. But
yeah, for
I
sure.
but I think most people just knew that really know me, know my work ethic, and there comes a point where it's like just do it for yourself, especially for a salon, you know, able to do that. So, um yeah, it'd probably be different if I had was like technology or something else, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay,
Support is key.
my last question for you is, can you give some words of wisdom or some advice to someone that may have a secret dream inside of them right now, and they just are so scared to take that leap of faith because they need to know the end result? We're all there sometimes too, right? We're all like, but how's it going to turn out? Like, will it be successful?
Right. Right. Yeah, it's scary. I think also when you have those dreams, um, not necessarily to pigeonhole it, but also like let it kind of like evolve out. Like it might have started with one thing, but it could go this way. And if it's effortlessly going this way, go with it, you know? Um, but yeah, think about it, meditate on it, write it out, say it out
Mhm.
loud, and take it to your ancestors, take it to a spiritual level, because that's my huge motivators, feeling something inside, like with the call of the mountains. I knew before, a year or two before, I was like, I need to move closer to the mountains in nature. And I thought it was going to be the Blue Ridge Mountains. I had no idea it was going to be the Rocky Mountains. So Spirit was like, okay, let me take you, and like took me all the way over. But it's scary though. I mean, it's very scary, but there's also this underlying calm, almost like when you're at the beach and you get, like there's waves and all that other jazz. It can be so tumultuous up here, but like if you drop down a little bit lower, that just flows over. And there's this calmness underneath all of that, right? So it's like if you're feeling stressed out or chaotic about it and not sure, but you still feel a sense of calmness, keep going, because that's right. If you're feeling anxiety, I would say, maybe shift. But yeah, if you feel calmness, keep going, and find your friends that believe in you, that won't, like, because we all know people who are like, no girl, they might like knock you down, but that's them in their life in general, right?
Yeah.
So if they're not happy with where they're at, they might, and you have this idea and you're happy and you're passionate about it, that type of energy, some people just want to knock it down because they don't have it. So
Mhm.
even if you come up against that, you know who your people are, and run it by them. And if there's someone that you respect and they're like, no, you're out of control, I mean, that's one thing. But if they're like, no girl, do it, like go, blah blah blah. And also, more you talk about it, the more you'll see that you will become connected with people who can make that happen for you, because you can't all do it yourself.
Mm.
We need each other. And it's like, even if it's something really small, it's like, oh shit, I know someone who can do that. And again, that's that effortless part of it, where you didn't know where to go, but now all of a sudden this person is in front of you, that spirit leading the way.
Yes, I just heard a really great quote too. Oh, you never know who is watching or who is listening.
Yeah.
So, like you said, talking about it out loud is, you never know that you
Hmm.
could be talking about your dream to somebody at a coffee shop, and that person behind you is looking for exactly what you're selling. So
Totally.
just knowing that when you own it, that those pieces
Hmm.
are going to effortlessly come in place.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I will
Divine
wrap it
alignment.
here. Wrap it here because I want to keep it on a tight 30. And don't worry if you miss LaRissa, you can catch her at I Like Pretty Hair. And in 2 weeks, we're going to meet again and talk about her second business. Yes, this woman owns two businesses and they're both successful. And I'm so proud of her and honored to be her friend and colleague in life and all that jazz. So thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, LaRissa. I appreciate
Love you.
you. Check her out. Bye, everyone.
Bye.